Dreams are usually very rich in nature and have more visual imagery than periods of daydreaming during wakefulness. A flow of single-mindedness is also found in dreams, in which trains of thought, images, and plausible or absurd situations play through our consciousness without disruption, with no awareness that we are dreaming. Although we often do not remember our dreams, we all dream to some capacity. Developmental psychologists have found that children who have better visual spatial skills are better able to report and remember dreams, suggesting a real difference in dream experiences between individuals. Dreamers who are better skilled can even lucid dream. Cognitive scientists have found that lucid dreamers can respond to external stimulation through eye movement sequences and motor movements such as raising their index fingers to indicate that they realize during sleep that they are dreaming. The ability of our sleeping mind being completely disconnected from the real world to generate a whole dream world is breathtaking. There is so much we have yet to learn on the nature of dreaming. As 4th century philosopher Cheng Tzu pondered after dreaming of being a butterfly, whether our waking world was only the dream of the butterfly. Films such as Inception take this a step further, questioning the nature of our consciousness in our waking state, as we are unaware in our dreams that we are dreaming. Such may be the case with our reality, only a figment of something greater. Now, onto our conversation with clinical psychology student Rogelio.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Psychology of Spirituality. I am sitting here with Rogelio Gonzalez, who is a PhD student in clinical psychology. I wanted to hear a bit about his experiences getting into clinical psychology, what is clinical psychology, and what areas that he researches. So right off the bat, Rogelio, people who may be watching this may not be familiar with what clinical psychology is. So what is clinical psychology?
Well, let's start with just what psychology is in a general sense. We're trying to look at to describe behavior, to predict behavior, and modify behavior in a way that's adaptive for people. We hear a lot of words like I'm depressed, I have OCD and stuff, and we all have symptoms of that. But we want to make sure that we're helping modify behavior for people who have it in a severe way, so that they can be functioning adults, functioning children, and that's kind of our goal there, and to find out what mechanisms work in those processes.
So psychology is the study of human behavior.
Yeah.
Then clinical psychology seeks to kind of use interventions and tools to try and, like you said, modify behavior.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
we're having fully functional individuals in our society. So how did you come to this field of clinical psychology?
Well, when I was in high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do yet, and so I kind of went to college just kind of...
Kill as old as time?
Yeah, just kind of taking classes, trying to see what I enjoyed, and I came to a psychology class, which I really enjoyed, I've always had this desire to kind of just help friends and kind of listen to what's going on with their lives and offer advice, and I really kind of enjoyed that social aspect of it. And so I kind of, thought this is my area. This is the thing I like to do. And so I've just really pursued it, and had psychology be my major, and then really just started joining a lab and joining an ethnic cultural lab, and just kind of going from there.
So one of the things we were talking about off camera is a PhD program and what comes with a PhD program. So there's two main components to it, and it's getting trained as to the career that you'll be going into, and that's either research, an academic position, where you're doing lots of writing, lots of researching, what has been done in the field, you're coming up with your own niche in the field, and then it's also putting that into practice, so clinical work. So Rogelio is more interested in the clinical aspect. How did you come to that decision? Was that from just kind of knowing from yourself that you wanted to help people?
Yeah, so after college, after I graduated with my bachelor's, I went on to a master's program. And in that program, I was able to do my master's thesis, and I looked at anxiety and depression in farm working children from Mexican families.
That's right.
And just throughout that experience, talking with a lot of the mothers and the families there, you just see a lot of need. They need a lot of support. And I figured, research is one way to kind of bring attention to that population. But also I kind of felt like I needed to do more. I wanted to get my hands dirty. I wanted to help people and sit down with them and hear them and listen to them. And so that kind of drove my research, but also kind of provided me a really, a really big stepping stone to where I want to be in the future as far as practicing clinical psychologist. Yeah.
And when we can use all the, this field needs bilingual individuals who can, help people from different cultures. We live in a pluralistic society. So this is a great segue into some of the research that you spoke about. So you talked about looking at depression and anxiety into farm people, laborers, people who work on farms. So is that kind of the research that you still do now as a PhD student?
Yeah, kind of. It's shifted a little bit. Okay. So now I'm working more in a sleep lab. So I'm adding the sleep component to my research and to my interests as well. But there's still a real lack of research in ethnic populations, especially Hispanics and Latinos, looking at how sleep really drives their behavior, how it drives their problems, their anxiety, their depression, stuff like that, obesity, all that's tied into sleep. And these are problems that really plague Latino populations.
So what are the different things that you have found in terms of differences within the Hispanic population as to sleep habits, maybe, I don't know if there's a difference that you...
Yeah, sure. So we find that, across research, just really robust studies, we find that Latinos on average sleep less than, Caucasian families. They're more likely to live...
In the American context?
In the American context, in the American context. They sleep less than Caucasian families. They're more likely to live in, lower SES neighborhoods, which have more environmental noise, can disrupt sleep. Even culturally, we have families who, children take naps more often and for longer periods as Latinos and Caucasian children, and that can affect your nighttime sleep. And so there's a lot of cultural aspects and a lot of political and geographical things that kind of play into ethnic sleep. And
is importance of sleep something also? Like, is there kind of like a de-emphasis on how sleep affects individuals, children? Yeah,
so we find that some studies have shown that Latino families, their parents, are more likely to have either a TV, a laptop, or a mobile device in their children's room, which blue light can affect your sleep. And so that kind of little lack of knowledge of how sleep is, high quality sleep is attained, sometimes is lacking, which can lead to poor sleep, which again leads to depression, anxiety. So it's all tied in together.
It's all tied in. I think the work that you guys do here at the Sleep Center, which I used to work here as an undergrad. Really understanding the components of sleep and how we can better our sleep because it relates to our well-being in general. So maybe what are some kind of relevant takeaways that we can apply into our... Is it as easy as just getting fruitful sleep, getting 8 hours of sleep?
Yeah, sometimes the things that we do kind of we think is helping sleep can take away from sleep. So one thing we want to make sure you protect your sleep. So make sure you're getting enough sleep that you need each night and kind of having that time set. What some people might do is if they're having trouble sleeping, they'll get into bed and they'll lay there for an hour, 2 hours before they fall asleep, thinking that if I'm in bed, I'm getting rest, which is actually not true. Sleep is a learned behavior, and so what you're doing by staying longer in bed is you're associating wakefulness with your bed, and so it can affect your sleep. So we want to make sure that you are, getting the right amount of sleep, making sure that you kind of associate bed with sleeping time. Making sure we don't have bright lights, in your house around that time. So make sure we start dimming them or turning them off.
So should you only go to bed when you're feeling...
Yes.
So if you are feeling awake and you're just like, okay, I have to be up at 6 a.m., therefore, even though I'm feeling fully awake, it's 10 p.m. and I'm not feeling sleepy. You shouldn't.
No, you should stay out. Stay out. Stay out. Make sure once you start feeling your eyes getting heavy, you start feeling a little tired, you start closing your eyes a little bit, that's when you want to go to sleep because you want to make sure you solidify that association.
It builds that habit.
Yep.
Right? So it's kind of touching on to behavioral therapy.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
when we work with clients, we kind of look at these environmental cues that they can kind of play with.
Yeah, and that's exactly how we help people who suffer from insomnia. Is that they'll go to bed and they'll toss and turn for an hour, 2, 3 hours, and then they really find it hard to be able to go to sleep and fall asleep quickly because they've associated, turning around, tossing around with wakefulness and their bed, and so it makes it difficult. So that's the one thing we do is trying to break that association and make it so it's sleeping and bed together.
So because this lab specializes in treating sleep clinically. I would love to hear about your experience as to actually treating people.
Yeah.
What's some recipes for success that you found?
So, I mean, it really depends on what the issue is, but what we found is just consistency. Consistency is always be the number one. We're going to try and find a way where you can go to sleep quickly, and we'll give you the tools to do that, but if you don't use them consistently, then that association doesn't work as well. Like we said, it's a learned behavior. It's a behavioral therapy that we do, and so if you don't do it consistently every single day, it makes it more difficult, and it makes it harder to implement. So similar to someone who doesn't have insomnia, just people who are, general people who have trouble sleeping.
Is insomnia the kind of the biggest sleep disorder you would say that people come into?
Trouble sleeping, either trouble initiating, trouble maintaining sleep, or waking up even too early. But usually it's the initiating or maintaining sleep problems.
Okay. So some really, really interesting research that they have going on, and I think the emphasis, you can't stress it enough, developing a good sleep routine. I mean, we sleep for a third of our lives.
Yeah, having consistent bedtimes.
Blue light research has been really important, just because we're living in, people have this really bright glare of the TV on, and that really, really affects your eyes and affects your sleep quality. So it's not only about duration.
Exactly.
It's also about quality. So I know Dr. Alfano, who heads the sleep lab, she would talk to us about a lot about REM cycles. So getting those full REM cycles, because that's what really, when you wake up, sometimes for me, I'll sleep a full 8 hours, but I'll still wake up tired, and I'll be like, I got enough sleep. And, I was fortunate enough to have resources like this lab. So I would go to Dr. Palmer, and I would say, hey, just informal advice. She would say, you're probably not getting full cycles. So you're probably waking up in the middle of an REM cycle, which is, it's more important to get the full. I don't know how many cycles you're supposed to have when you sleep.
Yeah, I think it's like 2 or 4.
It's like 2 to 4 full REM cycles. So even if you are getting 8 hours, it doesn't mean as much if you're waking up in between those, in between those 8 hours, for a glass of water or to go to the bathroom and stuff like that. So it's all about getting full and rested sleep. Rogelio, thank you so much for being on today's episode, talking to us about the importance of sleep in the Latino community. Subscribe, support the channel, and I will see you guys on the next episode. Thank you, Rogelio.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.